In this video, we are going to present how to make and how to use a business plan. The presentation is divided into three parts. In the first part, we are going to talk about the concept. In the second part, about the objectives. And in the third part, we are going to talk about the structure. The first question we need to respond is, what is a business plan? And the response is very clear. A business plan is a document that should give concrete information about the following topics: the business idea of a new business, or improvements to a business that already exists, explanation of how the idea or improvements will be implemented, and finally, a business plan should also give information about the expected results. And why we need a business plan? We need a business plan, for example, to raise funds for business funding, to raise funds for a specific investment, as a basis for an internal strategic planning, and also to raise questions about the business itself and the respective answers. In summary, we can say that the main objective of a business plan is to sell the image of the business owner and his project to potential investors. Now, let's talk about the structure of a business plan. The main parts of the business plan are the executive summary, company presentation, management team, product or services analysis, market analysis, financial analysis, and viability analysis. When it comes to the executive summary, there are several questions that we need to respond. And the questions are: what is the name of the business and what is the activity area? What is the mission? What is the scope of the business? What is the potential market for our products or services? Why our business provides an innovative and winning proposal? What are the resources we need? Human resources? Financial resources? What is the deadline to make a profit? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the project? And finally, what are our references and relevant experience for the project? Now, let's talk about the company presentation. We need to have the name and description of the company and their owners, the legal form if it is a new company, the history of the company if it is not new, or business experience of the entrepreneur, the description of the business concept, the projection of sales and services, strengths and weaknesses of the business, and finally the mission of the company. In this topic, we need to explain why the company exists. Now, let's talk about the management team. We need to show who is the person or persons that thought about the strategy. For that, it is important to present the CV of this person or these persons, emphasizing the most important contributions for this business. We also need to present the key partners and key providers. Some examples are accountants, lawyers, consultants. And finally, it is important to present the investors brought up so far. In summary, it is very important to give an idea about all the people involved in the business, either internal or external. Now, let's talk about the product or service analysis. First, we need to present the summary of the project. We need to give a concrete idea about the products and services of the company. Second, we need to communicate the motivation and objectives of the entrepreneur. Third, we need to introduce the key points to consider for the product development. Fourth, a detailed description of the product or service and its value proposition should be presented. And finally, the process or production should be explained. As it is very important to consider the analysis of the product or service, let's detail it a bit more. First, the summary of the project. It's important to present products and services in an exhaustive way. This applies to existing or future products and services, and it's also fundamental to give information about the activities and tasks needed for the product launch. For each activity, we need to define stakeholders, dates, and constraints. Another topic that should be developed is the investment in human resources, equipment, and facilities. The processes and technologies, especially if the product is new, must be presented. And what is expected to be the evolution of the product in the future. Second, motivation and objectives of the entrepreneur. It's very important to be motivated when we start a new business. The experience and the knowledge of the entrepreneur should be presented in a very detailed way. Third, there are also some critical points to consider. We need to think about the ones that influence the project development. We need to think about what we should do to reduce the risks. And we also need to be prepared for unpredicted situations. Fourth, let's have a complete description of the product or service. We need to explain the value proposition. We need to identify the technology used in the process. We need to confirm that we provide a unique value proposition. We need to verify that our product or service fulfill a need that exists and if it is the result of an innovation or research. Fifth, the process or production. It's important to describe it in a very descriptive way. It's also important to verify if it is necessary to invest in equipment and facilities. We need to verify the need of outsourcing. Production control. We need to explain the way clients' needs are satisfied. And it's also important to explain the level of inventories of raw materials and finished goods. The structure of the business plan needs to include the market analysis. For that, it's important to know the number of existing clients and its power in the market. Pinpoint the target market, pinpoint the customer segment, and establish an adequate price for the product or service. The structure of the business plan needs to include the customer analysis. For the customer analysis, we should divide our main questions into quantitative and qualitative analysis. For quantitative analysis, we need to know who buys, how much they buy, how much they pay, and how they pay. For qualitative analysis, we need to know why they buy and how they are motivated for the buying experience. Another topic that needs to include in the business is the competition analysis. For the competition analysis, we also should divide our main questions into quantitative and qualitative analysis. For the quantitative analysis, we need to know who sells, what products do they sell, how do they sell, how much do they sell. For the qualitative analysis, we need to know what do they sell and brand recognition and ways to promote sales. One of the most important topics of a business plan is precisely the financial analysis. There are 5 topics that we need to take into consideration when it comes to the financial analysis: the investment plan, the financing plan, sales projections, cash flows projections, and a break-even projection. Let's talk about the investment and financing plan. For the investment, we need to detail all the investment expenses, for example, machinery, computers, buildings, etc. For the financing plan, we need to identify all the sources of financing, namely own capital, bank loans, factoring, leasing, crowdfunding, business angels, etc. Another topic that should be detailed is sales projections. We need to have a quantitative analysis normally done in Excel. This analysis needs to be coherent and well justified. And for this, some questions need a response. Here they are. Is there any orders already? What market studies exist to support the sales projections? Who are the clients that will buy during the first year? How much are they going to buy? Cash flows projections are also an important topic of financial analysis. In practice, we need to estimate monthly the cash flows of the company. We need to distinguish in a detailed way the inflows from the sales and the outflows from expenses. And finally, we need to consider different times for different expenses. The last topic to consider from the financial analysis is the break-even point projections from the cost-volume profit analysis. And what consists the CVP analysis? It's a very useful analysis, especially for the short term, and can be very useful both for new or existing businesses. The break-even point occurs when sales are equal to total costs, both fixed and variable costs. Fixed costs are the ones that do not vary with the number of units produced or sold. Variable costs are the ones that vary with the number of units produced or sold. For summarizing the financial analysis, we need to take into account the following questions. What are the funds needed to initiate the business until the moment we start to receive money from sales? What are the funds needed to initiate the business until the moment we start to receive money from sales? When are the moments and periods we need to put money into the business? How much will be invested? What are the other sources of financing? Is there any asset that will be used as guarantee? What is the probability of failure? What is the risk? What will be done to minimize the risks and their consequences? What are we offering to an external investor? The final topic of the business plan structure is viability analysis, and it's used to verify if the project or business are sustainable in the future. For that, we can use the net present value, which is the difference between the present value of cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows over a period of time. We also can use the internal rate of return. That is a metric used in capital budgeting to estimate the profitability of potential investments. The internal rate of return is a discount rate that makes the net present value of all cash flows from a particular project equal to 0. And finally, the payback period, which refers to the amount of time it takes to recover the cost of an investment.